I want to bring in Joel Brenner, who's a former Inspector General of the National Security Agency and the former head of U.S. Counterintelligence in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. I can't think of a better guest. Tell me about what the context of this. When someone goes to the Inspector General for National Intelligence and says to him, there's something that I've overheard or discovered that's very urgent to me and concerning. I'm worried about it. I'm bringing up a complaint about it. What's that all about? Well, how important is that?
Well, that's very important, because the reason these rules were created was to give people who had something to complain about a way of elevating that concern without leaking it. It was a way of sort of allowing somebody who saw something that was thought to be really out of bounds, would elevate that and tell the oversight committees on the Hill about it without having, in a secure way, without leaking the information. So what we're having now, what the administration was doing, was really to make leaking more likely. Now, the more we learn today about and as I think your viewers now know, that was stopped by the intervention of the Justice Department, right, which said they didn't think the statute applied, which the Inspector General, Mr. Atkins, thought it did apply. But, you know, the more we learn, the more it appears that the acting director, Mr. McGuire, who we'll hear from tomorrow, was playing a tough and honorable inside game. The Post reports this afternoon he threatened to resign if he wasn't allowed to go to the Hill. He's denied that, so one doesn't quite know what to say about a resignation. But he must have been playing a tough inside game, because the White House has moved backwards on this. They have allowed him to go to the Hill.
Let's talk the perspective of the man or woman, we don't know who issued this whistleblower complaint. What's the risk factor in that, in a person who's got a career in the government to do that kind of thing?
Well, the point of the statute is to make that risk, to eliminate that risk. And we looked, when I was an Inspector General at NSA, if one saw a retaliation against someone who had complained, we would come down like a ton of bricks on that person. You had to protect the person who was a whistleblower, who was a complainer. Because after all complainers are not right about what they're saying, and it's the IG's job to evaluate those things. So we got a really good mechanism to take care of this, and the IG community does a good job of protecting people who are complaining about things like that.
Let's talk about the IG, the job that the person has to Atkinson in this case, who has to decide whether he's going to follow the law or not. The law says if it's an urgent matter, it reaches a certain threshold of national concern, that he has to carry that forward to the Congress. He has to present the Congress the complaint. What would stop an IG from doing that? Why would an IG deliver what he's told to deliver to Congress? Because that's what happened here with Atkinson.
Because the statute says he doesn't go directly to Congress. He has to give it to his director, or in this case, his acting director. Now, the IG and the acting director, although the IG is a watchdog, he's an executive branch official, like it or not. He's not a free agent. He works in the executive branch. And the Office of Legal Counsel and Justice, Chris, is the last word as far as the executive branch is concerned about what the law is. And they said, no, the law doesn't apply here. Now, I didn't agree with that, but that puts both the IG and the acting director between a rock and a hard place. They cannot insert their own judgment in place of OLCs.
How about some political analysis here? We have an attorney general who's being used by this president to do his dirty work, collecting dirt over in Ukraine. We know that on the record now because it's in the telephone notes of the president with the president of Ukraine. We know that. That's how this attorney general is being used, as a Roy Cohn, basically. And we also know he sided with the president in terms of the way he presented the Mueller report, before, during, and after. Everything was basically juiced for the president's purposes by this attorney general. Now you cite the attorney general as the one who decides whether to deliver the whistleblower's information to the Congress or not, as if it's an institution that's immune to politics. The Department of Justice, is totally politicized. How can they render a judgment?
Department of Justice, under our Constitution, Chris, is part of the political branches of government. The AG, like it or not, is a political appointee. That's why, Chris, this is fundamentally not going to be solved by lawyers. This is a a political conflict between the two political branches of government, and it's got to have a political solution, which is either an election or an impeachment.
Mr. Brenner, you've said what I've been thinking, not so articulately now for months. Lawyers are not going to solve this. It may not be about the letter of the law. It's like pornography. You know it when you see it. And this president has been committing a high crime. Anyway, thank you, Joel Brenner. I did like the way you said that. We're out of time. Thank you. Up next. I'm sorry. Make your thought. I'm sorry. Sir, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to tell people who are focused on this quid pro quo business about which people are spinning whichever way they want to focus instead on the sequence of events. That cannot be spun.
Right. The president froze the money. He froze the money. He froze the arms. Then he met with the guy on the phone and said, "You still want those arms? Okay, give me some dirt."